Hi, so this is Robert for SecondsOut and Salita Promotions. Well, Mark, before we get quite into it, I've got to go back a bit historically here, because we both had different lives. When I first got to know you, you were a senior vice president at HBO, and I was an aspiring promoter. Today I'm in the media, and you're in management. So tell me, how does that happen, and what was the change like?
Well, Robert, first of all, it's great to see you after all these decades together that we work closely. I'm glad everything's good with you and wonderful to see you. It's an accident. I didn't plan this to happen. It's not just backwards. It wasn't ever in the cards. However, when I retired from HBO, after having done 32 years of great commerce, I decided that it was time to do something a little bit more meaningful and give back. And I really felt that women's boxing was at a point where, with my background and my experience and my networking, I could help women and women's boxing get ahead and begin to achieve equality with men. And there's no better person to do that with than Claressa Shields. I had a canvas I needed to paint. The subject is Clarissa Shields because I call her Charles Atlas. She carries women's boxing on her broad shoulders, and that's what I'm here to help with.
So we talked about the transition, the change. How did the relationship with Clarissa start?
So I retired from HBO in 2015, and Claressa had won the 2012 and 2016 gold medals. Basically I stalked her, I have to admit it. For 6 months I called her, I called her trainers, I called anybody I knew that might know Clarissa Shields. And finally, I got a hold of her and I said, look, I know the last thing in the world you want to do is have a stranger, a 65-year-old white Jewish guy, come up to you and say, I think I can help you. So I'm going to do this. I promise you I can help realize your dreams. It's what I did at HBO for over 30 years. And what I'll do is very simple. I'm going to give you an agreement where any day you wake up and say, this doesn't work, you just call me and say, thank you very much, it's been good, and we're good to go.
So we've got to that stage. We now circle forward to where we are today. So before we can actually quite get to this amazing fight that's happening on Saturday night at Little Caesars, just talk to me about how it worked out when you got that phone call, the first opponent, there's a problem.
Yeah, so Margaret Goodman, who's the head of VADA, informed me that Hannah Gabriel's tests had the presence of a banned substance. I knew then immediately that we weren't going to be doing that fight. There was not much to talk about. It's an objective test finding. We actually had been talking with Maricela Cornejo at the same time we made the Hannah Gabriel's fight originally. And I liked Maricela. Good boxer, veteran, fought a lot of great champions. She's got a lot of heart. She's a big, tall, strong girl. She's Mexican. We have never fought a Mexican fighter. You can't be a legend in this sport and say you didn't fight Mexicans. That means Maricela's got a lot of heart, a lot of soul, a lot of courage. She doesn't back down. That's a great fight, and that's a great US fight. So I called Maricela and her advisor, Nancy Rodriguez, and I said, please, the fact that this came around a second time means it's supposed to happen. Let's make this happen. And we did. In a matter of a few hours, very late at night, we made a deal, and by 2 a.m. that night, we were done and had signed contracts.
What confuses me, especially after everything you've just said, we look at what the pundits are saying, and I think maybe I'm missing something, but this opponent is a bigger test than the last opponent. Yet a lot of the pundits and the betting guys are saying, no, it's the other way around. How do you read that?
So, all due respect to Hannah, she's a great fighter, a great athlete, great competitor, but Hannah hasn't fought in a few years. With respect to this fight, the fact that in this city, in Detroit, Hannah knocked Clarissa down and was the only woman ever, pro or amateur, to do that, that's a big thing. That's almost as big as Savannah Marshall being the only woman to ever beat her, pro or amateur, and Clarissa avenged that. So I thought that there was something to avenge and make right. Made Hannah Gabriel's a great fight for that reason, thematically. Maricela Cornejo, ranked #1 in 3 of the 4 top ratings organizations, with a lot of pedigree. I mean, I think it's an upgrade. I think we actually are taking on a bigger, tougher fight now, and a fight that in the US may mean more But, you know, the public will tell us. But so far, I have to say, the ticket sales, the publicity, everything we're getting, the fact that we did it so quickly and didn't skip a beat is what will make this a great event and something historic.
What was it like bringing this event to Little Caesars in Detroit?
So I have a dear friend for decades at Madison Square Garden, Joel Fisher. Joel is very good friends with Howard Handler. They know each other for decades as well. I had never met Howard. Howard's the president of 313 Presents. That's the company that promotes many events here outside of the Pistons and Red Wings team sports at Little Caesars. So Joel introduced me to Howard and vice versa. Howard and I spoke, and I would say in 5 minutes, we felt like we were friends for 30 years. We had so many things in common. Our personalities just meshed. And I said, you know, Howard, we just beat Savannah Marshall in an historic fight, a record-setting fight, attendance-wise and TV-wise in the UK. I think it's the right time to debut Clarissa Shields at Little Caesars. And Howard said, you know what, Mark? I'm in. And it's the first fight we'll be doing at Little Caesars Arena, so we got some history to make, and we created this theme of big time boxing is back in Detroit, and we tied in the Four Tops, Cash Doll, the great boxing legends from this great boxing city, and those are all the ingredients for a great event. We're gonna have a real good one Saturday night.
Now, it's a bit crass, but I have to ask it. What's your prediction for the fight, Mark?
Well, let me just say this. Clarissa Shields is not only the best female fighter I've ever seen, she's one of the 3 best fighters I've ever seen, period. Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones, Clarissa Shields, those are the 3 most talented fighters I've ever been around. So I don't think there's anyone who can or ever will beat Clarissa Shields. That's no knock on her opponent tonight, it's no knock on her past or future opponents, but Clarissa Shields is the greatest woman of all time. She will go down as one of the greatest fighters of all time, male or female, by the time she's done.
Being from the other side of the pond, to conclude, my last question to you today is, are we going to see Clarissa back in the UK, and is that Marshall fight rematch going to happen?
Clarissa had a magnificent time in the UK. She loved it, the fans loved her. I'll never forget standing in the ring for the Savannah Marshall fight, and the fans were booing our national anthem. And I said, wait a minute, these are the people that use the same melodies that we do for our respective national anthems. We can't do that. But lo and behold, by the time the fight was over, they were cheering Clarissa Shields because they respected and admired what she did in the ring. And I respect the UK fans. I saw them the way they supported Ricky Hatton when he fought Floyd Mayweather. I saw the way they supported Joe Calzaghe when he fought Bernard Hopkins. And now I see the way they support Clarissa Shields. So that's a long way of saying, you're damn right we're going to be back in the UK. We love it there, and Clarissa can't wait to go back. Now, will it be against Savannah Marshall? Time will tell. Savannah's got a tough fight right now with Franchon Cruz. Natasha Jonas is there. Chantel Cameron's there. There's a number of fights we could do. So let's see what happens, but we'll definitely be back in the UK again.
All's left for me to say is thanks, Mark, and good luck Saturday night.
Thanks, Robert. Glad to see you, and glad these 40 years have lasted so long with us together.